Good morning, all. I hope you are doing well. Today, we are going to learn the host configuration in DHCP, Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. Before going to the lecture, as usual, the today's thought is in a day when you don't come across any problem, you can be sure that you are traveling in a wrong path. Okay, so my favorite Swami Vivekananda said that suppose you are doing anything means there should be a problem, you have to face the problem, otherwise you are following the wrong path. Okay, now back to the work. So now today we are going to learn the dynamic host configuration protocol. In that, dynamic assignment of IP addresses. Now exactly what is the meaning of this dynamic host control configuration protocol? Now you know, in the every PC is having its one IP address. Okay, so IP address, suppose you want to access any link, suppose now we are saving some data on any server or any you can say the server, that is suppose you want to access some file, you can simply type 128 point something. Okay, suppose I told you, yeah, in this share folder I saved this file, you can access it. So what you can do, you can type that IP address of that share folder and you can access the data. So this IP address, so how this IP address can be assigned? Okay, so there will be a question in your mind, how these IP addresses can be assigned. So I can assign any IP address or someone can assign these IP addresses. Okay, so there is a method to assigning this IP address. So that is called a dynamic host configuration protocol. So the very simple, if any PC is going to assign or any PC is having that IP address, or how it can be assigned to that PC. Okay, that is what we are going to learn throughout this lecture. So the DHCP is nothing but what? Dynamic assignment of IP addresses. So there are two types. First is a static and another is dynamic. So in a static, what happen? You can directly assign or you can directly put the IP address. Okay, you can go into the properties and in your computer you can directly assign the IP address, that is suppose 168.233.25.255.1. you can assign the address. Okay, there is a one method, that is a static, and another is a dynamic, means from your server you can access that IP address and it is automatically assigned to your PC. Now sometime you can see the IP address conflict error in your PC, right? You can see that error, IP address conflict. So how that IP address conflicts means what? That IP address conflict means there will be a two IP addresses assigned to the one IP address is assigned to the two different PCs. Okay, so the server or network don't know which host I can access, right? So there will be the conflict between IP addresses. So for that purpose, never assign the static IP address. You can always go for the dynamic. Okay, so dynamic IP address, that is nothing but dynamic host configuration protocol. That is we are going to learn in this lecture how it can be assigned. Now while DHCP assigning or DHCP configuration, there are different messages. There are total 8 messages. So first is DHCP discover, DHCP offer, DHCP request, DHCP decline, DHCP act means acknowledgement, DHCP NAC means nothing but negative acknowledgement. Now DHCP release and DHCP inform. Now we are going to work on these DHCP messages and how the IP address get assigned to your PC. Now I will first explain you what is exactly the function of each and every message. So first, DHCP discover, it broadcast by a client to find the available DHCP service. So first client broadcast this message and find where the server is available. Now next is the DHCP offer. Now it is a response from the server. Okay, it is a response from the server to you that this IP address you can assign. So this is nothing but the offering of the IP addresses. Now DHCP request, it is a message from client to server that does one of the following: request the parameter offered by one of the server and decline all other offers. Suppose I can access the 3 offers, so I will accept the one offer and I will decline the other 2 offers. Now verify a previously allocated address after a system or network change. Suppose there will be the change in the network, so we can allocate the address after the previously allocated address verification. Now request the extension of lease on a particular address. Suppose you want to extend the, suppose you can assign this IP address for 1 hour. Okay, and if you want to increase, or if you want to increase the time duration, then you again send the request. Now DHCP acknowledgement. So acknowledgement from a server to client with a parameter including IP address. So server send the acknowledgement to the client that these are the IP addresses. Okay. Now DHCP negative acknowledgement. So negative acknowledgement from server to client indicating that the client lease has expired or that requested IP address is incorrect. Suppose I have requested some IP address, and this, suppose this IP address is incorrect, or suppose I have taken this IP address for 1 hour and my 1 hour is going to over, then there will be the negative acknowledgement from server that your lease is going to over. You can release that IP address. Okay. Now DHCP decline, the message from a client to server indicating that offered address is already in use. Okay, this is the message from client to server. Whatever the IP address you have assigned to me, this is already used by someone else. So that time you can send, or your client said the DHCP decline message. Now DHCP release, this is nothing but the message from client to server cancelling the remainder of a lease and network. So it is the message from the message from client to server cancelling the remainder of lease and relinquishing network address. Now DHCP inform, the message from client that already has an IP address requesting further configuration parameter from the DHCP server. So this DHCP server, what it can message does, the client said that I am already having the IP address, you can send another parameter. Now in the next slide we are going to learn how exactly the client server interaction happen, how it can be, the message can be transmitted, and there is one algorithm which is processed by the client and server. So now in the client server interaction, the client broadcasts the DHCP server message on a local physical subnet. So first the client broadcasts the message, and this, while transmitting, it will broadcast the message DHCP discover. First it will send the DHCP discover message to the servers. So it's sent to the all available servers. It can be include some options such as a network address suggestion or a lease duration. While sending it, it will give you some network address suggestions as well as how much time of lease or how much time I will require this IP address. This information it contain this DHCP discover message. Each server may respond with a DHCP offer message that will include available network address and other configuration options. Now you send the DHCP discover message, and now from the server it will again you reply with the DHCP offer message. Very simple. The server record the address as offered the client to prevent some address being offered to other client in the event of further DHCP discover message being received before the first client has completed its configuration. So I will explain you the things in the next slide. Now this is very important slide. This is very important diagram that I am going to explain you here. Okay. So initially what happened, while booting, first initially the client send the DHCP discover message. Okay. First it sent the DHCP discover message from client to the server. Okay. After sending the DHCP discover message, the client goes into the selecting state. You can say the client goes into the selecting state. Those servers that cannot provide this type of service respond with the DHCP offer message. In this message, the server offers an IP address. What it can say? Again, it will receive this in the selecting state. Now server send the DHCP server message to client, and this DHCP offer message contain the IP address. Also it can offer the least duration. Okay, so least duration means how much time this IP address this client required. Suppose I required this IP address for 1 hour. After 1 hour it can be released, or you have to extend that. I will going to explain further. Now the lease hour default is a 1 hour. The server that sent DHCP offer looks the offered IP address so that it can, so it is not available to any other client. Okay, so whatever the IP address you send, this is not available to any other client, it is only available to you. The client choose one of the offer and send the DHCP request message to the selected server. Okay, now it can take that IP address, and now this client now then send the next message, that is a DHCP request message. Now it goes to the requesting state. Now okay, your client goes into the requesting state. However, if the client receives no DHCP offers, suppose your client, you can send the DHCP discovery message to the servers, but you did not receive the DHCP offer from the different server, then what happen? Your client can send the 4 DHCP request, DHCP discover message to the 4 times in the interval of 2 seconds. Okay, if still there is no reply after the 4 messages, then your client goes into the sleep for a 5 minute, okay, before sending the next 4 messages. Okay, so what, so till now you will understand from discover DHCP discover to selecting the state and then requesting state. Now I will tell you what happened into the requesting state. The client remains in the requesting state until it receives the DHCP acknowledgement message. Okay, in the DHCP acknowledgement, so after receiving this in the DHCP message from the server, which create the binding between the client physical address and IP address. If you receiving the first request message from acknowledgement message, then it form the bound between the client and the server. Now what happened in the bound state? In the bound state, the client can use the IP address until the lease expires. Okay, so in the bound state, now you can assign the IP address. Now this IP address can be used, okay, this IP address can be held up to the lease period. So lease period of I already told you that lease period is of the 1 hour. Okay, in the bound state your IP address is assigned and this state can be held up to your lease period. Okay, when 50% of the lease period is reached, suppose there is 1 hour of the lease period and your IP address is used up to 30 minutes, then what happen? The client send another DHCP request. Now okay, you can see here another, suppose there is only 50% of lease period is expired, it will send another DHCP request message for the renewing. If you want to renew or you want to continue this up to again next 1 hour, it then is send the DHCP request message. If you want to continue for the next, it again goes to the again send the DHCP acknowledgement message. Okay, if you want to continue, the client send another DHCP request. If you want to continue or you want to renew, then the client can also cancel the lease and goes to the initializing state. If you don't want to continue or a client want to cancel it, then it goes to the initializing state. Now what happened in the renewing state? The client remains in the renewing state until one of the 2 events happens. It can receive the DHCP acknowledgement when renew the lease agreement. In this case, the client reset its timer and goes back to the bound state, right? When you can receive the DHCP acknowledgement from the server that I want from the client that I want to continue my lease period, so again it reset your time and again continue. But if you not, or your server does not receive the DHCP acknowledgement, then what happen? Okay, then 87.5% of the lease time is expired. Okay, what happened if the 87.5% of the lease time is expired? Then it sends the DHCP request to the rebounding. Okay, so it goes into the rebounding state. Now what happened in the rebounding state? The clients remain in the rebounding state until one of the three happens. One of the three means requesting state, bounding state, and renaming state. So it go into the rebinding state. Now what happened in the rebounding state? If the client receives the DHCP negative acknowledgement, okay, DHCP negative acknowledgement at the lease or the lease expires, it goes back to the initializing state, right? It goes to the initializing state and tries to get the another IP address. Means it will not assign, or your connection will be disconnected, and then you can access for the new IP address. So again you have to follow the same whole process, right? So this is how the it works, how exactly the you will have to assign the IP address to your assign the IP address to your PC. Okay, so this is how the method of assigning the IP address. Now in the next, they have again explained you the all the slides. In the next they have explained you step by step. This is how I explain in the one diagram very fully. Now I will tell you step by step how it can be the process happens. Okay, now DHCP interaction simplified. Suppose I want to, suppose there is a here is a PC, this PC want the IP address, or you want to dynamic host configuration from the server, then it broadcasts the DHCP request message to all the servers. Okay, it will send the DHCP discover message to all servers. Now these servers can again, from this one of the servers send the DHCP offer. Okay, so it will assign the 128.143.137.144 IP address. It can be assigned from the this server. Okay, now I will tell you what happened next. So if the client receive one or more DHCP offers message from one or more servers, the client choose one based on the configuration parameter offered and broadcast a DHCP request message that include the server identifier option to indicate which message it has selected and the requested IP address option. If the event that no offers are received, okay, now this will be happen. Okay, so this will be happen when the DHCP offers received. But if what happen if DHCP offer is not received, if the client has knowledge of previous network address, the client may reuse the address if its lease is still valid until the lease expires, right? Suppose it can identify the previous address and it will see that lease address is over or not. If that is not over, it can be reused, otherwise it has to initialize again. Now next, here the DHCP operation is going to, that I will explain you DHCP operation in the diagram form. Now we can see in the DHCP discover, first I will told you that it will send the DHCP discover message to all the servers, and again that server receive the DHCP offer message to the client. Okay, suppose I am my PC or your PC is required to have IP address or a domain the DHCP, then the DHCP different servers offer the different IP address to your PC. Okay, then I will tell you what happened next. So this is what I explained in the word again. The server not selected by the DHCP request message use the message as a notification that client has declined that server's offer. Okay, now what happened in the next, now it can receive the DHCP request. Okay, in the previous slide what is the service receive the DHCP request broadcast from the client. Okay, so you can see here, now DHCP request is sent to the DHCP server. Now this server has assigned the IP address. Now it will send the DHCP request to this DHCP server. Okay, by the client to the server. Now this server again send the DHCP acknowledgement to the your client. Okay, so this server again send the DHCP acknowledgement, yes, this IP address is assigned and few parameters which are required. Now with this, what the information it sent, the DHCP request. In a DHCP acknowledgement, it renews the lease at least 50% has expired. Okay, then it will acknowledgement what it message it send that you want to release the you want to increment your lease or 50% lease has reached, then it send the acknowledgement message. Okay. Okay, now next is the combination of client hardware and assigned network address constitute a unique identifier for the client lease and are used by the both client and server to identify the lease referred to in a DHCP message. The your IP address field in the DHCP acknowledgement message is filled in with the selected network addresses. That is going to explain in the further slides. The client received the DHCP pack message with the configuration parameter. Now what happened after acquiring that IP address, after the 50% lease is over, then the DHCP acknowledgement message is sent with the configuration parameters. The client performs the final check on the parameter, for example with the ARP for allocated network address, and notes the duration of the lease and the lease identification cookies specified in the DHCP acknowledgement message. So this is all included in the DHCP acknowledgement. If the client detect a problem with the parameter in the DHCP acknowledgement message, address is already in the use network, then it will send the DHCP decline message. Okay, suppose there is already this message is used, or sorry, this IP address is used, then it will send the DHCP decline message. So server again start the configuration process. Okay, so this is what the again explain the how exactly DHCP decline message. So in the DHCP decline message, it receive the if server receives the DHCP decline message, then it will client receives the DHCP negative acknowledgement. So client has to reinitiate again the process of the IP addressing or DHCP. The client may choose the relinquish it lease on a network address by sending the DHCP release message to the server. Suppose there is a 100% lease is over, or then the client send the server that I want to release my IP address. Now the client identify the lease to be released by including its network address and hardware address. Network address means your IP address. Now this is how the DHCP operation release operation happen. Now the client here the client send the DHCP release message to the server, and then DHCP after release message your client will be released by that IP address. Okay, when server send the DHCP acknowledgement to a client with IP address and configuration parameter, it also register the start of the list time for that address. Okay, when you register the DHCP acknowledgement message, then it will start the new, or you can see the start the list time. This list time is passed to the client as one of the option in the DHCP pack message together with the two timer values T1 and T2. Okay, so this is what they explain how the T1 and T2. So we are not going to in that much detail. Okay, so you can see there are T1 and T2 means what? T1 is first it will send the message that when 50% of the lease is over. Okay, and another message when it is almost 87.5% of the lease time is over. So there are two default time you will receive the messages. Okay, but what happen when first T1 expires? Okay, I will explain you again. When T1 expires means what? When 50% of the lease is over, then what happen? It send the DHCP request to the server that offer the address asking to extend the lease for the given configuration. Suppose you want to extend the lease, then it will send the client send the DHCP request at the 50% of the lease over to I want to extend this lease. Now the server would usually respond with the DHCP pack acknowledgement. If the request received, then the server what can server do? Server send the message DHCP acknowledgement to the client that yes, I am going to increase your lease period. Now server also reset its record at the lease time. So whatever the lease time, again it will reset and again it goes on increasing. So if no DHCP pack is received, now what happen if the in T1 if the 50% is over but still DHCP pack is not received, then what happen? Until timer T2 expires, the client enters the rebounding state. Suppose there is a T2 means 87% of the lease is over, but still the server does not, the client does not receive the DHCP pack message, then it goes into the rebounding state. Now client now broadcasts the DHCP request message to extend its lease. Okay, again client has to send the DHCP request message to extend the lease. This request can be confirmed by the DHCP acknowledgement message from the any DHCP server on the network. Now it can send to the all servers, and any other servers can access this request or receive this request. If the client does not receive the DHCP pack message after the lease has expired, it has to stop using the current TCP/IP configuration. Now what happen? It can send the message request. Okay, it send the DHCP request, but it does not receive any DHCP pack response from any server. Then it has to release that IP address, and the current that connection will be, so that IP address, it has to stop that using IP address. The client may then return to the initialized state, and again he has to send the discovery DHCP discover message. Okay, so this is how the process, or how the exactly the things can be happen into the initialization of the DHCP or dynamic host configuration protocol. Okay, so this is whole method is nothing but the access of the IP address to your computer. So my thing is that, my suggestion is that never use the static IP address to your PC. Always go for the dynamic IP address. So using the DHCP, because while using the static IP address, there is surely the conflict between the IP addresses, because if you assign the one IP address, it can be assigned by the other also. Okay, so I hope you understand today's thing little bit. I can say complicated, not complicated, but you have to go into that diagram, that transition diagram. Okay, so you will understand very easily. If you have any doubts, you can comment me, or you can call me or message me. Okay, so thank you very much for today.